Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. David Dickinson, yes, he'll be in charge of the SFA team up at Perth at the weekend, and I'm sure he'll find a bargain full of goals for the Celtic teams, as long as VAR don't intervene. Dougie Potter is on VAR. No, he's the linesman. Stephen Traynor is the other linesman. Greg Aitken and Andrew McWilliam are taking up VAR, and it doesn't really matter about VAR. I'm past worrying about it. I know that it calls off certain things, but at the end of the day, we need to score more goals than the opposition, and as long as we focus on that, I think that the VAR decisions now are getting laughable. The whole Scottish football knows that it is underfunded and it's a ridiculous. And just another thing, if we're going to go to a top team of 10, there's going to be even less money for VAR, isn't it? I mean, it's just a ridiculous situation that Scottish football finds itself in, but we'll talk about that on another day. And Greg Taylor is leaving Celtic. Hurrah, a lot of people will say, and adios, or whatever they'll say to Greg Taylor. But Chris Boyd has said that Greg Taylor should join Rangers. We'll leave that at that. We'll leave that at that. Greg Taylor has got a few irons in the fire, as they say. He could go to America. I think he's going to go to America. If he's got any sense, he up sticks with his young family and he'll go to America and live the dream and then never come back to Scotland. That's just my own personal opinion. He's got an opportunity to make a completely different life for himself. He's got to pick this one wisely. But we'll wish Greg Taylor all the best. If he goes to Rangers, fuck him. Anyway, there's one player that would never have went to the Rangers. Francis Turley has said that not a hell's chance would he have signed for Sevco, even though that they were chasing after him as a youngster. He said that he's completely living the dream. When he's one of us, he grew up watching Celtic and pulling on that famous. Oh, wait a minute, we need to talk about the elephant in the room. What was that picture doing the rounds last night that Celtic sneaked out? Celtic were doing a media day at Celtic Park yesterday where they interviewed certain players and they put it out as a cover story for the fact that the players were actually getting pictured with the new away top for next season. And they'll probably bring that out just before the end of the season. Get it ready for the pictures for the summer and everything. And just to get us splashing the cash. You know that Celtic love to do that. And I'm sure that the season ticket letters will be going out just shortly if they've not been printed off already and get ready to send out to Celtic. You know how they like to get them out before the end of the season and get your money in as quick as possible. There was a picture going around last night. I put it on the community tab of the strip that looks like an old strip, but it's got Jota on it. But anyway, we'll wait and see if it is the new away strip for next season. It's just like Celtic, isn't it? Anyway, Francis Turley said, look, I had the dream. It manifested itself in Paisley last August. Turley was given his little kick of the ball on the main pitch. And I thought Francis Turley was going to be a player that might have got more game time. We've spoke about this a lot on the channel. You get a little glimpse of players that can potentially come in and be in and around the first team. And then because of the severity of every single game at Celtic and must win, Brendan Rodgers is kind of forced to play. Well, he's got to play his best starting 11, but the bench has also got to be a strong bench so that it could come on and change things. And the youngsters just don't seem to be getting much of a chance again this season. We're at the tail end of the season. I mean, we're into April now. There's only a month and a half to go of the season, really. And we're talking about players that haven't had a chance. And this is what lets us down as a club. I mean, I've spoken lengths about other clubs that have fantastic academies and are doing really well. I think that Celtic really need to start, if they want to have a conveyor belt of players. And is it Brendan Rodgers? Let's flip the coin here. Is it Brendan Rodgers that is saying, I'm not going to play him because it's, do you know, maybe Brendan Rodgers has got that fear of, we've been beaten a few times this season. Was the invincible season a lucky season for Brendan Rodgers? Or was it something that he's trying to produce again but he has a fear of. And is Brendan Rodgers really the man? He spoke about it so many times. I've always brought through youth. Well, proof but the proof is in the pudding. You haven't done this time at Celtic. You haven't brought anybody through. I mean, you've allegedly tried to bring people through, but they've left because they've having words with Brendan Rodgers, and they're not convinced that they're going to get any game time in the first team. Now, on the other side of the coin, people will say, well, you've got to be good enough. Well, James Forrest was good enough at 18 years old to make his debut for Celtic and being around the first team. Callum McGregor, similar. Kieran Tierney, similar. If we don't give the young guys a chance and a little bit of hope that they're going to get into the first team, do you know what is the actual point? And for the elephant that's the white elephant that's been built down the road, I mean, that's just another. I have no idea, because if the women team aren't going to be playing in it, what was the point in actually building that in that stadium? But anyway, we move on. Francis Turley says, look, I'm living the dream. I've got a desire to kick on. And there was another club came in for me. There was Aberdeen, there was the Rangers, and there was a few in England and Burnley. But I wanted to go to Celtic. I wanted it to work out, and Francis Turley is absolutely living the dream. Is he one that will break through between now and the end of the season? Is he one that will even get on the bench? Talking about the bench, talking about the predicted 11 for St Johnstone this weekend. Did I say that St Johnstone are going to be doing... yeah, I didn't I? Anyway, the predicted starting 11, I think, well, obviously we know who's going to be in goals because Kasper Schmeichel's out for 5 or 6 weeks. I think it's going to be longer. Kasper can say, Brendan can come out and say, Kasper thinks it'll be this. He said it too many times about players that they reckon that it'll be 5 or 6 weeks and they're out for 3 or 4 months. I think that it'll be interesting when we get towards the end of the season, and if Kasper hasn't seen back in training, and then we go out for the summer couple of weeks that the players are given off, because you've got to remember that all the international players will have international friendlies to play in June, even though the season ends in May. You know, you've got players that will play in international football maybe about 4 weeks after their final games in European competitions. But anyway, Kasper Schmeichel being out, Sinisalo will be in goals. Alistair Johnston will be right back. Will Cameron Carter-Vickers be lining up beside Trusty? Because Trusty was on the bench in the last game, wasn't he? And then it'll be Jeffrey Sloop, because let's face it, Jeffrey Sloop has got more chance of being here next season, so he'll get the game time rather than Greg Taylor. Greg Taylor's not going to be here. It's been an own goal by Celtic. We've spoken about it many times. We move on. So the back four will be Jeffrey Sloop, Alistair Johnston, Cameron Carter-Vickers, and Austin Trusty, I think. I think that, will it be fair on Big Mark Narowski? Yeah, I think that he'll go with Trusty. I've just got a funny feeling. Anyway, in the midfield will be Callum McGregor, as always. The haters that said that Callum McGregor was past it during the season have been proven to be complete nonsense talkers, because let's face it, the games that Callum McGregor was out, it was like having you pulled a plug out the middle of the midfield, and it was just everything just went down the drain. There was nothing worked. Nothing worked. You could put in Paulo Bernardo was injured. You put in Arne Engels, who isn't a holding midfield player. Will Celtic ultimately go out and buy a holding midfield player this summer? And for about £8 million, but we're waiting to see the summer of that. Arne Engels will be beside Rio Hatate in the forward areas of the midfield beside Callum McGregor. Although Paulo Bernardo is available again, there may be a little bit of temptation by Brendan Rodgers to maybe mix it up a bit and give Paulo some game time. Or will he use him more sparingly and bring him on as a substitute? The fact that he has been out for so long, I suggest that Rio Hatate or Arne Engels will get around about 65 minutes, and then Paulo Bernardo will come into the fray. And the wing is going to be just as normal. It's going to be Nico Kuhn and Jota on the wing. That is your two wingers for next season. The manager has said that he wants Dyson Maida to be the number one striker next year. Get your cash out, Celtic. Come on. Get the cash out, splash the cash, and tell us that Dyson Midas signed a 3-year extension deal, which means he's on a 5-year deal. If anyone wants to come and get him, it's going to cost around 35 to 40 million. Just get the deal done. I don't know what's holding it up. No, we know what's holding it up. It's Nicholson and Chris Mackay, as always. Don't even get me started about them two. And could you just, they're going to fuck it up, aren't they? Anyway, Dice Maida will be playing through the middle as our main striker. Adam Ida will be on the bench. He'll come off. Young Johnny Kenny's about to be thinking, I was playing first team football every single week until I came back to Celtic. I don't know, and it's good being in and training about the boys and all the rest of it. But when it comes to the end of the season, he's got a big decision. He's like, do you really stick around? And this is the problem that we have at Celtic. With playing just the two strikers, I know the manager wants to have three, but it gets to a point that not everybody wants to be a Scott Bain in life. Not everybody wants to sit around on the bench and just. I mean, Scott Bain hasn't even been on the bench this season, has he? I mean, he's getting money for old rope, that geezer. And he's still got a few years left on his contract. He's about to be sitting just smoking cigars every week going, anyway, Dyson Maida will play through the middle, and it'll be interesting to see who does get onto the bench. I hope that Brendan Rodgers, he's going to go for a strong bench, but which means it's hard to bring on some of the younger players. Anyway, we need to talk about the whole Chris Boyd comment. Yes. Could you imagine it if Greg Taylor joins Rangers for free? Oh my days, man. Could you imagine the abuse that he'll get? He's not going to do it. If he's got any right sense about himself, he's going to get out. He's going to get out of Scotland, isn't he? But anyway, I don't think he will. Make sure he's going to the community tab where I've just put up the picture of the of Jota and that funky new top. It doesn't look like a new top, it looks like an old top, but it's actually a new top for next season, allegedly. Anyway, James Forrest says that he's absolutely buzzing to be back, and he knows that it's all about just getting match fitness and getting himself fit on the training pitch. Will he score that elusive goal that he needs to score before the end of the season to make him an absolute legend? And him and Callum McGregor are on the verge of greatness, absolute greatness, when they win the next two trophies. On that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.